you got wildly political, and then our lives became about your obsession with this kind of progressive ideology, and not about making our marriage work at home. And I think a lot of men out there have kind of felt the sting of that. My response to the comment was that I myself had a lot of issues, and I've had to come and take accountability for my part of the divorce. Hi, my friends. I wanted to make a video on. I made a past video talking about men walking away, and I had cited that I had in my first. I had in my first marriage. I felt like a big influence on that was progressive politics, and my ex-wife really leaning into that, and then feeling like I felt devalued as a man. I felt like progressive politics a lot of times sees the worst in men and refuses to see the best or give men the benefit of the doubt or have faith in men. And I felt that I had gone into that marriage and I really wanted to be a great man. I wanted to be a great husband and a great father, and I felt that I didn't that the marriage was really not prioritized. I felt like a lot of political stuff happening external to the house was a large focus, and I didn't feel like the hey, husband and wife. I firmly believe that marriage is a big project, and it requires consistent and daily maintenance and consistent working on it. It's like it's just like your health, your body. If you don't work on it, it kind of your health falls away, and it kind of everything goes to shit. So a marriage requires constant maintenance, and so for me, I felt betrayed in the sense that the political stuff and the feminist book clubs and the like a lot of the focus on that type of stuff was taking priority over the marriage. So I had somebody in the comments kind of really vehemently say, well, it was all about the woman's choice to do that, and she ruined the marriage because you were doing all basically the comment was you were doing all of the right things, and she was one flew over the cuckoo's nest and went bananas. And on some level, I absolutely agree with that sentiment. I feel that if somebody gets married and has a notion of I'm going to be together with you for the rest of my life, and this marriage is important by getting married and doing the marriage vows, that there is a lack of there is accountability to be placed on that, where it's like, yeah, well, you got wildly political, and then our lives became about your obsession with this kind of progressive ideology, and not about making our marriage work at home. And I think a lot of men out there have kind of felt the sting of that. They felt their marriages fall apart, or the woman be kind of get into this be influenced by external factors and then go full on with it, and then you basically lose your partner. I've encountered men in real life talking to men like that, and I've also seen that in the comment sections of some a handful of videos. But with the comment, I wanted to kind of turn things around, and my response to the comment was that I myself had a lot of issues, and I've had to come and take accountability for my part of the divorce, and the why the marriage failed. And I've been in the male support group space for a while, and like that's a really big thing, and that's a very hard thing for men, particularly if there's been any sort of infidelity. Because you look at the infidelity and you point at it, and you say, well, the woman cheated on me. Like, this is all on her. But unfortunately, it does take two to tango, and when you go through a divorce, it's an extremely painstaking process, and it feels like you're under a microscope and you're being tortured, and everything's outside of your control, or at least that's what it feels like a big part, especially if it's an acrimonious divorce, because you're just not making any movement, and you feel like this person that's trying to destroy you is running the show, and you're watching your bank account just take a nosedive. So it's really easy to get entrenched in the notion that it's all this other person's fault, and look at them, and especially if you have very clear evidence of it, right? In my case, I talk a lot about the radicalization process that had occurred, and this obsession with things outside of the marriage, and there's a lot of other things that are just more personal, um, but for me, it was very difficult for me to take accountability, and I wanted to talk about that piece because I think it's so instrumental for men to kind of um, move on. I think from an individual accountability piece, and for me having moved on in my life, the real reason why this is important is because if you don't acknowledge the mistakes that you've made and you don't correct them and you don't heal and you don't grow, you're gonna end up repeating the same mistakes, right? And I did that a couple times actually. Like I had a couple relationships after my divorce, and I saw some elements I had really wanted to figure stuff out and dive into the self improvement. But I, at the same time, having a couple relationships after and seeing some similar patterns, I felt like I have not done enough yet, and maybe I need to take more accountability, and maybe I need to kind of put keep looking into the mirror, even though looking into the mirror can be difficult, right? You look in the mirror and all you see is the scars that other people put on you, right? But you don't see the inherent flaws uh, in yourself. You have to look deeper, right? So for me, what was painful was I walked into my first marriage and I really wanted to be a great husband and a great father. And so when that didn't pan out, and I felt a lot of betrayal because it's like I was a good guy, and a lot of men will feel this way. I was a great guy, and you blew it because you weren't a good wife, and this, that, and the other thing. But the thing that I've had to come to terms with is that I wanted to be a great husband so after my divorce, thinking on this for a long time and thinking all the pain, the hurt, and whatever, I came to realize and accept that I really, at my core level, I want to be a great husband and I want to be a great father. Those were desires that I had from childhood that were real. The desire was real, but I all I had was intentions, and I did not have actions. And so I had to come to grips with the fact that even though I wanted these things, and I was very outspoken about these things, and this is in my head what I was shooting for, I didn't hit the mark, and I didn't have the actions to back it up. And so that's why when somebody had commented, oh, it's all the woman's fault, and the woman got totally psycho, and then ruined the whole thing. I do think that there's accountability. When you get a divorce, you play the the debtor's game, or I don't know what you want to call it, but effectively, in the years following a divorce, you're going to play through the scenario in your head many times. Whose fault was it? Was it how much of it was my fault and how much of it was their fault? And I think at the end of the day, what's healthy is to have a healthy amount of accountability on yourself. And that's hard when you've been abused. If you've been abused financially, emotionally, or physically, because it's like, well, that's just clearly this person abused me. So I know particularly women. I feel like I've encountered women get particularly um, triggered by the notion of accountability when there's been abuse. When there's a man's been physically abusive to a woman, it's like, why on earth are you gonna blame the victim? You're gonna blame the victim of abuse, that it was actually her fault that she was abused, right? So I don't want to go there. I don't want to trigger people. I want to, me personally, I felt that I had been abused in certain ways. Don't have to go into that, but I felt that I had undergone significant trauma in my marriage, and but at the same time, the thing that I've come to understand is that I let myself be disrespected. I let myself feel like this other person has all the power. I gave too much, but I wasn't giving care and genuine love and genuine respect. I was giving, I wanted validation. And so I wanted my ex-wife to feel that I was, to validate me as a man, that I was a good man, and that I was a good father, and all these things. But unfortunately, I didn't do what I needed to do. And what I needed to do was wake up every morning and decide and treat my wife with love, and treat her with respect, and treat her with kindness, and genuinely care about her emotions. I think for me, I just felt, again, I've talked about this in past videos, I was hyper rational. I thought emotions were really stupid. And that really speaks to our society. Not, I don't want to blame society, but I feel like we don't have enough conversations about men and women are inherently different. And people want to refute me on that, go ahead. I mean, I just feel like how men and women experience emotion is considerably different, and men don't inherently understand a woman's emotions, and it takes a lot of coaching and practice and encouragement to kind of understand how a woman perceives emotion and kind of gets through things. So I felt very arrogant and I felt very pompous, and I was I had a superiority complex, and I would shut people down, and I felt superior because I was basically emotionless. So looking back, I had a lot of issues, and there's a lot of reasons why there's a lot of resentment in my first marriage. Add to that, there was a significant misalignment in fundamental values. I thought I was more progressive than I was. Actually, that kind of speaks to the progressive movement. Basically going very far left from and leaving people in the wake, right? And just I felt like I was a liberal person at the time. But then my ex went wildly progressive, and so I felt kind of like she left me behind. But that was the thing too, is there was a fundamental misalignment where I could not respect my ex-wife. I could I just the views that she embraced and the implications of the society. I just felt like um, it wasn't moored in my value set. My value set was a man and a woman love each other, and you form a tight bond in your marriage, and you emphasize that every single day, and you show each other respect as man and wife, and you have your children together, and the family is one of the top prioritized things, and I just did not feel that, and so it was very difficult for me to respect my ex-wife. At the same time, as a husband, that was my duty to respect my ex-wife.